Many of you have been bombarded with prophecies of gloom and doom if you don't reduce your salt. You have heard this from the food police, from the CDC or the Centers for Disease Control, from the Institute of Medicine, and from the American Medical Association. Now, on top of that, the news media amplifies their messages even more dramatically. Are they really right to say that too much salt is bad for you? Have they fully evaluated the scientific evidence, all the evidence, describing the role and the impact of salt on our health? Or have they glossed over much of the vital science in their quest to provide you with an instant answer to all of your ills? These are important questions because your health and the long-term health of this nation, its young and its elderly, depends upon that answer. So I'm devoting the next few SaltGuru videos to a systematic analysis of the salt and health debate. We'll delve into who's involved in the debate, what has everybody so fired up, what is the actual evidence that's been published, and finally, what's going to happen if we continue to maintain our current salt consumption or actually reduce it. Now, this is not going to be rocket science. I will try to present everything to you as simply as possible. The idea is to fully inform you, not to tell you how much salt you should consume. You have to use your own common sense to make that decision based on your individual needs. And if you have any real health concerns, consult your physician who knows you and your medical history. Okay? So let's get started with a few quickie true or false questions. Now, quickie question number 1. We eat more salt now than we ever did. True or false? True? Wrong. It's false. We eat about half the amount of salt than we did a century ago. Now, the only published records of our salt consumption come from military archives in US, Britain, and Germany. They all state that we used to eat between 18 to 20 grams of salt per day up until the 1950s. Now, that's about twice as much salt as we eat today. Now, why is that? In fact, it's quite simple. From time immemorial, human civilization has had to depend upon food preservation for survival. Up until World War II, salting was the primary means of food preservation. All those familiar traditional foods, such as cheeses, hams, olives, sauerkraut, saltfish, and corned beef, were produced with salt. There was very little refrigeration back there, and if you didn't salt your foods turned rotten. It was only after the Second World War that refrigeration took over the role of food preservation from salt. And because of that, we now eat less salt than we ever did in recorded history. Quickie question number 2. We don't really need salt, do we? True or false? True? Wrong. The answer is false. Salt, or sodium chloride, is an essential nutrient. Sodium is required for a great number of physiological functions in the body, from maintaining our correct pressure in the circulatory system to supporting nervous transmission. Chloride is essential to our digestive system, and without it our foods would not be absorbed. Since the body does not manufacture sodium chloride, if we don't eat it, we will die. This naturally leads to the question, well, how much salt do we really need? Now, this is really one of the key questions, and we'll see the different opinions on this later in the series. Now, quickie question number 3. We eat more salt in the US than in any other country in the world. True or false? True? Wrong. The answer is false. If you look at all the figures for salt consumption around the world, and this has been researched very thoroughly and published in a number of medical journals, you will see that everyone, regardless of where in the world they live, consumes an average of between 7 to 12 grams of salt per day. It's called the hygienic range. On average, it comes to a little bit more than 9 grams of salt per day, which is right where the current U.S. consumption is. Now, countries such as Italy, France, and Greece, the home of the world-famous Mediterranean diet, consume considerably more salt than we do here in the U.S. Yet, they seem to have extremely good cardiovascular figures. Why is that? Well, you'll be quite surprised. You'll have to find out, and I guarantee you'll be surprised. Oh, people often ask me if there are any societies around the world that eat less salt than in this narrow hygienic range, and the answer is yes. There are some primitive rainforest tribes, such as the Yanomamo Indians of Brazil, that eat far less salt. In fact, they eat far less of everything, and they have amongst the world's lowest life expectancies, about 47 years. Do you want to know why? You'll have to stay tuned. This is the Salt Guru saying, enjoy a balanced diet, keep fit, and we'll see you soon.